Let's get into our first topic now, though. Should drugs be decriminalised? We're asking this after it was revealed that last year a record number of people in England and Wales died from drug use. The rise was fuelled by a 30% increase in fatalities related to the use of cocaine. Now, in Glasgow, they're awaiting the opening of a facility which will allow people to consume illegal drugs under the supervision of clinicians. It's hoped that this so-called safer space will help reduce fatal overdoses by decriminalising drug use within the safe and clean facility. Should something like that exist in the rest of the UK or Marvyn, is this creating a decriminalised space somewhere where the law doesn't apply? That feels weird, doesn't it?
No, I think decriminalisation is definitely a strategy that needs to be looked at and adopted. We need to start moving away from making everything about police order and how long you get in sentences. Prisons are full because we've been overly criminalising every single part of society. We never ask why. What's the causation for why drugs have been going up year on year? And someone will be like, because there's not enough police officers. Well, then let's get every individual their own personal police officer who will watch them and then put them in prison as soon as they do something. It's an absolutely stupid idea to keep investing in putting people into prison and not actually look at the causation, not look at actually real long-lasting strategies. And I think Scotland seems to have a really huge problem in their country, and I think it's a great place to test this theory out. It's been happening in I think it's Vancouver in Canada, and it's been happening in Portugal historically. And I think Britain, at this point, continuing down the road of how we've been going, doesn't seem to be working, and we need some new ideas about how we approach this issue.
Why do we not try those things? What's preventing us, do you think, in this country from experimenting, just trying something different? Because clearly what we're doing up till now doesn't seem to be working. The stats bear that out.
I think Britain does have an element of sort of sanctimonious good and bad, right and wrong, and I think it's really baked into our culture now, where it's kind of like we're better than everybody else. We stopped this and we ended this and we're the first ones to do this. But I think really when you sort of rest your laurels on historic ideas rather than actually genuinely what are we building for our future, we're getting close to being in our third generation of people who are moving into an element of hopelessness. Like everyone that's invested in, can I finish please? Everyone that has been invested in society as it was presented to us, how we should do it, not everybody is seeing, not enough people are seeing the rewards of that. And actually the impact is that in that hopelessness, in that aimlessness, people start then looking for escapism, which is why most people take recreation drugs rather than this idea of just like we're bad people at birth.
Yeah, what I mean, Marvyn's saying is effectively moralising, being self-righteous is actually costing lives here because it's not sorting the problem.
I have experience in our family. We lost somebody as a result of a long-term use of alcohol and drugs. So I've got direct experience of this. And I don't think if that person had had access to a safe space, as a family, we would have supported that, because what we wanted is for the person we loved to be helped to come off drugs, not to be allowed to use them safely. It is never
centred in that, though?
Now I get my chance to talk.
Yeah, because you said something absurd. You can't centre yourself in drug users' problems.
Let's just hear Lowri out, because this is lived experience. This is personal experience.
So I think there are some people
that must have been very painful.
Well, it is painful. I think it asks most people who've got a member of their family. Sometimes they're actually quite pleased when the family member goes to prison because they hope that might be they're away from the drugs. So I have a problem in terms of, and I do have a moral issue, because actually I think there's a kind of sort of atmosphere of hedonism. Oh, it doesn't matter if you want to take drugs, if you want to. Actually, you're not making any. You're not helping society, you're not adding to the life of other people. It's just about you and the drugs. There's nothing else, it's you and the drugs. So I don't think that should be condoned or facilitated in any way. I also have to say, would I want that on my street? No, I wouldn't. So where are they going to put these safe hubs? They're going to put them in already very deprived areas. So you bake in that kind of deprivation into that area.
But I mean, you say that we have a huge problem with drugs in prison as well. So that's not a safe space in itself. And looking at this centre in Glasgow, what it does is put drug users into contact with people who may be able to help them, not just with their drugs, obviously with clinicians who can talk about that side, but the other many complex problems that they have in their life. That's a place where they can go to get help when society doesn't necessarily offer that to them.
Well, I think that, again, I would say that there are services out there. The most successful in terms of treatment are things like Narcotics Anonymous, Alcoholics Anonymous, and that is founded upon the person themselves wanting to help themselves. Obviously, people often come in and out because they relapse, but that's a very successful way, and it's about abstinence. And I just think that saying to people, that, number one, you can take drugs safely, which you can't. I mean, ketamine is not a safe drug. Cocaine is not a safe drug. Heroin is not.
So the centre is described as a safer. Yeah,
but I don't think we should. I don't think that the health service is in the business of allowing people, helping people to take drugs that are dangerous, because they are dangerous.
I don't think we should be centering our individual lived experience on things that are related to somebody else's health and well-being. The fact that you're not able to reach those family members isn't because, like, there isn't, we haven't got strong enough rules. It's because that they are sick and they genuinely need to be approached, obviously mentally first. Things like Alcoholics Anonymous is about a collection of, like, group therapy and individual accountability. And to even get to the point where you say, I want to survive and I want to do something about this, you need support structures. And this country doesn't provide any form of support. It's kind of like make it or don't. And if you don't, you're a bad person, you're lazy, and you're here to sponge off society. And it's like people don't sit there and think like that. When you have a child and you look at them, they don't sit there and just think, I'm not dealing with all this. I'm just going to be lazy and do drugs and crime. Things happen to people on the way, and there is literally little to no support for any individual that falls off the track. And then because we just hardline everything and put people into jail, which is not rehabilitation in any way, shape or form, they continue to reoffend, they continue to take drugs, they continue to be violent and actually look for escapism from their reality rather than deal with the issues and become better people that contribute to society.
OK, I just think I do want to take as many calls as we can on this because we've got them coming in. Broderick's in London. Broderick, what do you feel could supply some of the answer here? Is it decriminalisation? Is it providing a safer space for people to use drugs in?
I think the drug situation is not going to go away. I believe the government should get involved and set up shops like chemists, that the drugs are made in a pure way and not mixed with poisons or anything else. Plus the government, the tax that they would get from it would be more than cigarettes and booze put together.
I think
drugs aren't going to go away.
Sorry, Broderick, I think a lot of people would have a problem with supplying Class A drugs. Now, the safer centre that we looked at in Glasgow is actually somewhere where people bring their own drugs, and it's the way that they take them that is safer. Does that make sense to you? Is that a good start, do you think?
I think that's a good start, but what I'm saying is where the gangsters sell the drugs, there's rat poison in it, there's this and so forth in it. If the government sort of had some sort of body that could make the drugs and wean the person off slowly on proper mixed drugs made by the government scientists.
Yeah. We're going to take another call. Thank you, Broderick. Thanks for that. Brian's in Norfolk. What do you think, Brian? Is it time to decriminalise? Do you think safer centres for taking the drugs, are they part of the answer?
No, I don't think actually they should be doing anything for these druggies. If they want to take the drug, let them take it. If they want to die, let them die. I'm a diabetic and I have to inject myself 4 times a day. Now, that is to live. If I don't do it, I die. I wouldn't take drugs of any description unless they were prescribed by a doctor.
Brian, Marvyn's point is that no one sets out in life to become an addict or to die from an addiction, that in itself it can be classed as an illness. Why would you take issue with that? Why can you not see that there may be things that happen to people during their lives that result in an addiction of some sort?
No, I cannot, because since I was 14 years old, I've been taking 4 injections a day, not because I want to take them, but because I want to carry on living. These drug addicts, all they want to do is kill themselves for some unknown reason, and I just don't understand it.
Do you really think that's what they want? When they first take drugs, they think, I'm going to do this so I can take my own life.
Well, they might as well, mightn't they?
Well, that might be the end result, but that's not the same thing as starting out with that intent. What Marvyn's been saying is that a lot of people live miserable lives from which they are seeking some sort of escape, from which they're trying to find an alternative.
One has to say that the initial use, the reason for the taking of the drug, changes over time, because once you get locked into addiction, you create all sorts of terrible things often happen to you that then perpetuates the trauma, which means you keep taking the drug. And the drug in and of itself is a trauma. Living that lifestyle is a trauma. So allowing people to continue to live that lifestyle doesn't solve the problem. It's like giving people methadone. They're still addicted. I agree, extra services to help people come off drugs, but I think the idea that you just maintain somebody's addiction in a safer way is insane.
But the idea, and we should have a look at the centre, I think, and the way it works, because it seems to me...
Would you have one next to your house with your children?
Would I rather have a safer drug-taking centre...
somebody else's...
Or would I rather have a back alley full of syringes? And, you know, that's what you see.
I don't want my children anywhere
They've situated the centre in a place where they know drug-taking is happening already.
So some poor people will be living in that area, not all drug-taking, and yet they're now going to have that in their area. So poor people don't get a choice.
You're just like, it's so ill-equipped. It already happens. You have to understand there are already houses and dens where this takes place.
There is, illegal ones.
Then it goes out, but it goes out into the world and
you get a ring of burglaries and a ring of car thefts surrounding them.
You can't make up problems. I'm telling you that it already happens. I grew up in an area where drugs and prostitution was absolutely normalised, and it was all across my high street. We see everything already as a child. It's naturally just there in our environment. And so the fact that there is a concentrated place for this to be done, where actually it's safe, and actually these things are being disposed of properly, is significantly better than them just being left all over our high street.
Well,
so if you don't know, if you didn't grow up in those areas and you don't know those things, it does sound like a really nice idea that I would like none of these things to exist, and I want none of those things to exist. But when they do, the answer, for me, is significantly better if it's in a controlled environment than if it is just laid out on our high streets.
OK, let's take another call. Karen's in Essex. Karen, do you think these safer drug-taking centres make sense? Is that part of the answer for you?
Absolutely not. Unfortunately, my son got involved with drugs. We're absolutely devastated because we've always been against it. My mum is insulin-dependent diabetic, so the thought of anybody injecting drugs just absolutely horrifies me. What we've done, we've actually taken our son under our own wing, and he's actually gone cold turkey at home, in our home, and we are getting him through this difficult stage. And so far, he's been totally clean for 7 weeks.
Karen, he's so lucky to have you. Oh, he's so lucky to still be in contact with you and to have someone that cares and has the time and the commitment to make that happen. And I'm happy it's working so far. I'm just wondering, how many people have that? How many people have family that are able to do that for them? And without that, who's going to be there? Who's going to intervene or even notice they exist?
But giving people drugs isn't the answer, and it's...
So they're not giving people drugs? They're not giving people drugs, Karen? They are taking their own drugs into the centre and providing a safe way for them to take them and contact with people who can advise them?
I understand the contact side of it to help them, but they're just not getting... There's nobody out there that's treating them. My son went into the mental health unit and there were people coming in there with drugs. It's just the whole situation. The lady who just spoke before, if you don't know about it, you can't see it, but there's drugs everywhere. Every town, every city, it's somewhere.
And doesn't it make sense then to take that drug-taking activity and separate it so that it isn't everywhere, it's in one place and everybody knows where it is?
Well, I think people are going to do it no matter what unless they get the help, but I don't believe in having centres, no. OK. Thank you so much, Cam. We're going to take another call. Emily's also in Essex. Emily, what do you think? Do these centres make sense to you?
Hello. Yes, I hope so. I'm going to take you back to a little while ago when they brought in the bins for the needles in about, I think it was the 80s or the 90s for heroin addicts. and so you could just go and put there. So it made it safer. Going to one of these places for a drug addict. Sorry, can I just? I can't hear myself. Sorry.
Okay.
Hang on, I'd just like to say one of these places would be really healthy for people to go there. They will get support. There'll be friendly people there. There's not going to be a house a house next door to you could be full of people doing this. These are going to be a step up for somebody who can maybe get a chance in their life. That drug addict can get a chance to get out of that kind of community and maybe I don't know, they'll meet someone and maybe do a course or something. It will all have a knock-on effect, but it's going to only be for the good. It can't be for the bad. Good people doing good things for people who need it, and that will have a good impact. Unfortunately, there are drugs. People, no one wants to be a heroin addict or an alcoholic. They don't grow up wanting that. So this is going to be good. It's only from the kindness of people's hearts. So I really wish people, I wish the best of luck to all of them.
Emily, what do you think about the idea that there will be a building where effectively the law doesn't apply, where the laws that apply to the rest of us about possession and use of drugs, that's put to one side in that one building? Does that feel strange to you?
No, not at all, because people do it all over in their houses anyway. This is just a safe house.
Yeah. I'm going to take one more call. Thank you, Emily. Sally's in Devon. What do you think of this idea, Sally, of a safer place to take drugs?
I think what you don't need is a safer place to take drugs. What you need is more places like Amber, which is a thing in my village. They take in young drug addicts, alcoholics, and people who are just homeless that have, really need help, and they help turn their lives around. They get them through training, and
how do they find them?
Find jobs, and they're allowed to stay there up to 12 months.
Yeah, I suppose the problem is, how do you find people? Addicts don't necessarily present themselves because it is an illegal activity. We talked about decriminalisation, but with a centre like this where it's safer to take drugs, then you can deal with one thing at a time, can't you? You actually, the addict presents themselves and say, this is what I'm doing, and there's a chance to intervene at that stage.
Well, I think there are plenty of ways to outreach to people. Many of our addicts are homeless, for example, and if outreach services are a bit more effective for homeless people to find out what's going on with them, there are other ways. Though it's not just that way. I just find it so tremendously depressing that this is where we are, that we think, oh, well, we're not actually going to say to people, it's not acceptable to use drugs, it's not acceptable to not contribute anything to society, just to take drugs all day. We're going to allow you to do that because it's easier, because it's more convenient. We're going to make it cleaner. I mean, they showed that nice picture of how lovely and clean it looks.
But if it's harm reduction to them and to the people in society, isn't that what
they
we
might stop overdose, but it's not harm. It's almost like rebranding drugs as, OK, if we had the organic heroin, that would be fine. The only problem with heroin is when it's adulterated. No, heroin is really dangerous.
Said have been discussed. Not one of the things you've made is such a high idea, an expansive idea of what this is going to mean.
It's called big picture.
We're now going to go to kids and be like, kids, you should take drugs. We've got purest ones. You can take it here and it's safe. It's like, no, it's dealing for the people that genuinely need it. And I think whenever we devise these strategies, it's always through the lens of like what I would do, and I would never be in that situation. And it's just like, well, thank God. That's an amazing situation. We're now in a place where we actually have a growing number of people who are addicted, and we actually need to do something about it. And the previous ways has not worked. Okay. We have not got improvement on the outcome. So now we need to try a new way, and this way makes sense, and it's been proven in different markets.
Okay, we have to leave it there, I'm afraid.